take projection.
It's Wednesday morning, and you know what that means. It's time for another episode of the Alabama Slam Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Hanna.
What's going on, guys? It's Patrick Akers.
We have a shit ton of stuff to get into.
What a week.
Yeah. I mean,
both the good and the bad. We got it all this week.
A lot of stuff to get to, so we're going to jump right in. First, we want to pay some respects. Terry Funk passed, I guess, the day after we recorded last time or something. Yeah. Things always happen as soon as we're done with our episode, right?
Yeah.
It happened when we released on Fridays, and then now it happens when we release on Wednesdays. Shit just happens. But Terry Funk passed. I'm going to let you speak on that for a minute before we get into Bray Wyatt, because Terry Funk, I only vaguely remember things from my childhood.
Yeah.
Right? So he's not someone I was super familiar with, but I know he was highly influential and respected in the wrestling community.
And that's the biggest thing, the guy's influence. I mean, we talk about all the time, this concept of someone's fingerprints being all over the business. I mean, Terry Funk, I mean, he's up there. For me, he's up there. He's right under the tier below, like, Ric Flair in terms of, like, not just, like, star power, but also just... It doesn't matter which clip, which match of Terry Funk you watch, you're going to be entertained. In which decade you watch, right? If you watch the late 70s Funk, if you watch 80s Funk, if you watch 1990s where he's in ECW and he's an old man and doing like fucking moonsaults that he's halfway getting over, in the fucking ECW arena. Like, he was just relentlessly entertaining. And, much like the other guy, we're going to talk about Bray Wyatt, a complete one of one. There's nobody that was ever like him. And there will be nobody in the future that's like him. I mean, wholly unique. If you've never watched any kind of Terry Funk, I mean, it's endless where you can start. If you want to start with his rivalry against Ric Flair, if you want to start with the empty arena match with Jerry the King Lawler from, I think it was 1982, where, I mean, that's just such
I've seen bits and pieces of that.
Yeah, that's a wild Terry Funk where poor Lance Russell is just trying to calm him down. Terry Funk's cussing. They got to bleep it out. Like, it's so great. Again, he just had a type of charisma that just exploded through the screen in a way that, made it impossible not to be entertained by what he was doing. And you saw the outpouring of support. Friday night, Cody Rhodes came out and gave the tribute speech about Terry Funk. Because you got to think, for a lot of these, especially if you just now got into wrestling, you've probably kind of heard these names, right? But you don't know how influential these people were.
Yeah.
I mean, we know about the Flairs and the Hogans and Rock, Stone Cold, the big names, right?
But then there's no Mick Foley probably without Terry Funk.
100%. There's not.
That was one of the things I gathered this weekend from watching tributes and stuff.
And I mean, there's, even a guy, one of our favorites now, Eddie Kingston. I mean, the character of Terry Funk flows through Eddie Kingston. I mean, they're very similar. So yeah, it's a lot of guys like that. And WWE, for the most part, does a pretty good job about, since they own the entire library of every wrestling that's ever happened, every kind of territory. They are kind of the guardians of wrestling's legacy. They do a decent job with it. I think,
did a horrible job of the death match that was supposed to be a tribute to him the other night.
Yeah.
Quote unquote death match.
Yeah. Well, you can't
get away with that much.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. WWE's not doing no ropes barbed wire matches, right? Funk style, Terry Funk. They're not going to do that. But like, I don't know. You hope that in the future, WWE would get better at sort of paying homage to some of these guys. And I thought the tribute on Friday night to him was about as good as you could be, considering, there was another superstar that unfortunately passed away who, particularly in the modern era, was a bigger name than Terry Funk, which we'll get into.
Yeah, I mean, we can go ahead and swing into that now. Very shocked to hear about the passing of Bray Wyatt only a couple nights after Terry Funk's passing. Sudden, there had been a lot of rumors and things the last several months. It had been a long time since we saw him on TV. We knew that, they came out and said he was dealing with an injury, and then when it looked like he might be returning, they're like, oh, he's dealing with some health issues. Well, turns out apparently he got COVID and had, he already had a heart issue, and then suffered a lot of complications with his heart, dealing with that after he got COVID. And then by all accounts, everything I've read was he was in pretty good shape, getting ready to come back sooner rather than later, and then had a heart attack the other day.
Yeah.
I mean, just tragic. 36 years old, couple of kids.
Yeah.
We weren't super fond of the last run he did when he came back. We thought maybe they kind of squandered that a little bit. Had the greatest, re-entrance or whatever you want to call it last year at the end of the pay-per-view. Just fantastic. We raved and raved and raved about that. We weren't super thrilled with the booking, but I mean, his mic work those last few months that he was on TV was tremendous.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if he was wrestling or not. If he had the mic, I was going to watch. And a lot of that seemed like it was, Bray speaking as Wyndham and not Bray speaking as Bray.
Yeah. I think, I tweeted this out after I heard the news. The word genius gets thrown around a lot. I do think this dude was a wrestling genius. Just not only the willingness to experiment, but the ability to pull it off. The fact that this guy, I mean, listen, we'll go back to the beginning. The Wyatt family was over from Jump Street. I mean, as soon as they debuted on the main roster, they were one of the best things in wrestling. I mean, that iteration with Luke Harper, Eric Rowan, and Bray Wyatt was just coming out feuding with the Shield.
Yeah, and they brought Rowan back Friday
They did
night.
bring Rowan back, yeah. But you take a guy in Bray who does that, right? He does the Wyatt family thing. And then he has a second act of his career as The Fiend where he's basically like, okay, I kind of want to do like a Pee Wee Herman's Funhouse, but blend elements of horror, but make it kind of campy, but also have it be serious. And just there are parts of The Fiend that didn't work, the all red lights match or whatever like that. But just the ability and the willingness to be like, nah, I'm going to try this on the grandest stage in wrestling, and to fucking pull it off is mind-boggling. It shouldn't have worked. If you wrote down all the stuff on paper that Bray did, just as a concept, people are like, well, that'll never work in wrestling in this era.
Well, and it makes you think too about the respect that creative must have had for somebody like Bray to just be like, I think that might work. Let's try it. Because, WWE creative has done some stupid shit in the past.
Yeah.
By their own, doing things that they came up with. But, he came up with all that and pitched it, and they were like, fuck it, try it.
And he constantly, hit home runs, at least in terms of he was never the greatest wrestler. It never was about the matches with him anyway. It was much like Terry Funk and, all these greats of wrestling. When a camera got in front of him and he looked into the camera, you couldn't look away.
Yeah.
And yeah, we weren't the biggest fans of the Uncle Howdy stuff, but just the fact even that he was trying that, that he was doing something different. I mean, again, a complete one of one. There's never been anybody like Bray Wyatt. There will never be another Bray Wyatt. And, if you totaled up all of the years he was on TV consistently, right? Because there was a lot of stop and starts with his career. He got so many things over, like the lantern, the rocking chair, the follow the buzzards, the hat, the shirt he wore in the Wyatt family. That was the Cape Fear type of stuff. I mean, the creativity is just endless with this guy.
Yeah, it was cool to see. This is one of the areas where WWE excels, was the way that they did the tribute to him the other night.
Yeah.
Right? With the chair there.
When it's one of their own. Terry Funk was that was an NWA guy, right? That was before all that sort of stuff. When it's one of their own and one of their own brethren, that's when they really knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, they really, really nailed it the other night. And then even, AEW, which we'll get to shortly, they had, before the show started Sunday, there was a pre-show sing-along with He's Got the Whole World or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of a bunch of those wrestlers wore BW, what do you call them, tags on their
armbands,
armbands, yeah. just widely respected. And even it's come out that I don't know who's going to be at Dynamite on Wednesday night, because Tony Khan said anybody that wants to go to the services can go, and can have the day off to go pay respects. So may not be much of a show for Dynamite Wednesday night, but I mean, that just goes to show what kind of guy he was and what people thought about him. And
the legacy of the guy, unfortunately passed away at 36, but will not be forgotten ever, just because simply of the sheer magnitude of what he accomplished in the short time that he was in the business. And for as over as what he was, and for as successful as what he was in WWE, you could still make a valid argument that WWE didn't drop the ball on this guy. But I don't know if he fulfilled his potential, because he could have been, he should have been the one to beat the Undertaker streak. I think in hindsight we can all say that should have been him. He should have been the next Undertaker type character for WWE, and maybe that's what he was gearing back up to be with this now third run that he was going on. And unfortunately, we won't know what happens because he unfortunately passed away. There was a tweet that I found that it kind of brought a little bit of a smile to my face, where someone was like, he's probably looking down, smiling at the fact that we'll never know who Uncle Howdy was. Just for the sheer fact that this dude, was all about the tease. He was all about stringing things along, and now we will never know who donned the Uncle Howdy mask. I
mean, it's was rumored, or not rumored, but there were a lot of instances where people saw his brother backstage.
Yeah, but we don't know. Never came out. And just the lore that surrounded his character, right? The White Rabbit stuff, the Sister Abigail.
Yeah, they even had QR code stuff happening the other night.
It's just, again, he was a genius. I mean, he really was, in all sense of the word. And so I will always remember him as the leader of the Wyatt family, and with Luke Harper and Eric Rowan behind him. I think that is, as a trio, that's one of the best groups that they've ever had in wrestling.
Yeah, I need to go back and watch some of that stuff, because that was before my time, before I jumped back into wrestling. But I've seen clips the last few days of stuff, and
and his mic work was just on another level. I mean, you can go look at it. I'm sure it's still up on WWE. He did an interview, one of those sit down interviews that they aired, but then they put the full version up on YouTube with Michael Cole. And just his ability when he's, sitting there just talking. He never really yelled all that much in his promos. All of them were just talking. And I mean, half the time you didn't even know what the dude was talking about, but you were just invested. That was part of his gift.
Yeah.
He had the gift of gab for sure. And
I just got invested because it just seemed like he was so from the heart. Those last couple months he was on
you could tell that this dude really cared about wrestling. Grew up in the business, and wrestling meant a lot to him. And yeah, I think, that first promo back, he really was just talking as himself, talking as Wyndham, and, you saw it with the outpouring of support, not only from the wrestlers, but from fans too. I mean, this guy touched a lot of lives in the short time that he was here. And, at the end of the day, that's all you can really ask for.
Yeah. Well, let's switch gears. We've still got tons of shit to cover for this week, and there's going to be a lot of stuff we'll leave out, and we don't mean to do that, but we have to do that because just time constraints. Let's get into All In from over the weekend. The zero hour, there were only a couple matches there. There was started out with the tag team. MJF and Adam Cole versus Aussie Open.
We got the double clothesline. We got the kangaroo kick. I mean, the crowd was hyped for it. And Better Than You, Bebe, come out the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions.
Which is strange. How long do you think they'll keep that up?
I don't know. I mean, we'll get into it when we talk about the main event, but why get off this train now? Yeah. Why not keep it rolling for as long as you can,
Well, we can circle back to them, but let me go ahead and do this real quick. I'm going to lean into this microphone so the point is exaggerated.
The most consequential thing to come out of All In happened in the 0 hour with our guy Jack Perry.
One of the biggest fucking wrestling events ever
ever. The biggest, if people are to be believed, highest attendance, most paid for tickets ever.
And it's overshadowed. And listen, we titled an episode of our show a couple weeks ago, "Here We Go Again?" ? Because we was like, oh, Punk's doing this backstage, and this one, I don't know if it's on Punk, right?
I don't.
So we're talking about Jack Perry versus Hook for the FTW title. There was controversy surrounding Jack wanted to use real glass in a thing a few weeks ago, and Punk was like, not on Collision, you don't, because that's stupid. Glass don't work.
So apparently the rumor was like a lot of... So Punk wasn't the first guy to talk him down, which is part of what I'll get into when I go to place blame of whose fault this is, what happened Saturday. So yeah, a bunch of officials and management told Jack Perry no, and then I guess he didn't listen or didn't take it, and then they went to Punk as like, hey, go tell this guy no, and then he's the one that went and did it.
Don't do that.
A fucking shit show. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So, there was all this stuff from a few weeks back, and then in front of 90,000 something people, because you got 80 something thousand paid, and then they said another 10,000 or so just employees and friends and family and comp tickets, media. Yeah. Another 10,000. You got 90 something thousand people, plus all the pay-per-view viewers. And Jack turns to the camera and was like, "Cry me a river, it's real glass."
Yeah, he said he hit it and said, "It's real glass. You see that? Cry me a river."
Come on, dog. And this man's match is coming up next.
Yeah, he was literally standing.
So we could get to that too in a minute, because you got these two motherfuckers who had some squabble booked back to back, and then you put fucking Adam Cole right after Punk. Best I could tell, nothing came of that. So
Hangman Page. Yeah.
Hangman Page, yeah, sorry. Yeah. So fucking... Yeah, this one seems... And there's two different sides. There's, Jack instigated it by saying the thing. Then it first came out that Jack got in Punk's face, right? After the match, right before Punk's supposed to go out. And then they're like, okay, well, we need to get the Golden Elite up next. And they're like, well, we ain't ready.
Yeah, we can't.
We're not supposed to go out for another 30 minutes. We ain't ready.
Yeah.
And so then, apparently Joe gets in the mix and was like, I'm wrestling in front of all these motherfuckers. Let's get this shit together and let's go. Right?
Yeah.
So
Peacemaker Joe.
So I don't know, man. I kind of feel like it's on Jack. Part of me at one point was like, maybe this is part of the work because Jack is not working as a heel. We've discussed this ad nauseum. We don't need to really discuss that anymore.
Yeah.
But then there were other reports that were like, no, Punk is the one that was like, hey, we got a problem. And he was the one that, like, why would you do that when you know you got to be outside in 5 to 10 minutes?
There's only one person to blame here, in my eyes.
Tony Khan.
Yes. This is what happens when people do not respect you, and they do not respect what you're trying to do. He is not leading this company. I mean, point blank, it's not happening.
Well, it apparently all happened right there in front of him.
Right. If it's in Gorilla, he's got a headset. He's right there. Okay. Again, I've said this multiple times. He is the most pushover billionaire that has ever existed. Okay. We got all these billionaires who are fucking cutthroats. Damn, Bezos. You think this shit's going on at Amazon HQ with fucking Bezos? You think
he won't even let him take a piss break?
Bro, they got to wear diapers in the damn thing because that's how much he's about that life, of like commanding people. Like these guys do not respect him. Not all of them probably, but clearly some of them. And so like when you don't lay down the hammer, like here's what should have happened. The fucking rumor breaks out, oh, Jack Perry and CM Punk have had this thing about the glass, right? If you're a leader, and a leader of men especially, like a football coach, you know what I mean? Like that's basically what Tony Khan is. He's kind of a football coach. He should be anyway. Every football coach I've ever had, if there's two guys that had a problem, the football coach comes, sits down, says, hey, you ain't got to fucking like each other. I don't give a shit if you don't like each other. But you're on this team together, and we're all going to push towards a common goal. Okay. So if you have to fucking stay away from each other, if you never have to say another word to each other, never look at each other in the eye, then that's what you have to do if we have to do this.
Here's my gripe with Punk. Well, I feel like Jack was the one that instigated it. Punk, man, handle this shit later.
But if a guy's getting up in my face and saying shit, I'm goozling him too. Do we, like, from all the reports I said, there was something along the lines of, do we have a problem? And then Jack was basically answered, yeah, we got a problem. Okay, well, now we're going to have to settle it again. Like, to me, this is different than what Punk did with Hangman, where, like, it happened on the show in front of the cameras and it put everything in jeopardy. This whole thing could have just been avoided. And it could have been avoided if you have a personality like Tony Khan who sets the tone about this is how we're going to do things. But if people just see you as like their friend, or like what a lot of people like Jim Cornette and others have called Tony Khan, just a money mark, like just a way to get fucking money, then they're going to do shit like this.
Here's another thing I want to complain about. We got All Out coming in just a few days.
Yeah.
A week from All in Chicago, where CM Punk should be main eventing.
Yes.
Or whatever, should be a highlight.
Yeah.
And they're talking about both of these dudes are suspended until further investigation. How fucking long does it take to investigate? They had cameras everywhere back. Might not have been in somebody's dressing room when Brawl Out happened.
Right.
But this shit happens right behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Right? This should take you about a day and a half to investigate.
Yeah.
They got cameras rolling all over this motherfucker back there.
Yeah, there is. If Tony does try to put his foot down, I know I just said he should put his foot down and, be respected to the locker room, but if he puts his foot down that harshly in front of this bigger pay-per-view, he's a bigger idiot than what any of us actually think. CM Punk's got to be in the fucking main event at All Out. Has to. Yeah, you just wrap it up. You make this the quickest investigation of all time.
But who do you put in the main event with him?
Well, it's MJF. That's the match. Listen, if the people on A&E can solve a fucking homicide in 48 hours, we can fucking figure out what happened before Sunday, okay?
An argument.
Yeah.
And a pie face and a chokehold real quick.
Yeah, my guys out there in the streets of Baltimore just figuring out who shot who and wrapping it up. And, like, we can't figure out if Perry did something first or Punk said something first. I will say this about Jack Perry. I kind of like what he did. This is kind of the stuff that I would want to see from him. Okay,
if you're gonna make this heel character work,
give me a little bit of an edge. I've been saying you've been missing an edge. So, like, yeah, fuck it. If you feel a certain type of way and you're like, I want to use real glass, here I am. I'm in this moment. I'm with Hook. Like, let me make a little thing to the camera
because he's on vacation.
Yeah, and also here's what's also funny. If CM Punk was in Jack Perry's shoes at 26 years old, and some old timer would have told CM Punk, like, hey, you can't do this, you can't do this. This is the exact type of thing CM Punk would have done.
That's why everybody likes CM Punk back then.
You did the same exact thing that Jack Perry was doing to get yourself over. It's the same type of stuff. It's all coming back to bite you in the ass now. But like I said, it only falls on one person's shoulders, the blame. It's Tony Khan's fault. I don't really, but then again, I don't think that this is that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, we haven't talked about Punk versus Joe, the match yet, so let's do that real quick because we're 20-something minutes in and we got a bunch of stuff to cover. Fun match.
I thought the match was good.
For all the shit talking I did last week about why do we need to do this at London, it's a good match.
Joe was having a blast.
Yeah, good way to start the show.
I mean, he was getting 95% cheers. CM Punk was a little bit less. It was a little bit more than 50-50 cheers to boos, but there was some boos there you could hear.
Yeah, Punk came out hot.
Yeah.
But,
probably because
well, I mean, like his pop was like he got a pop.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, I mean, good match, fun way to start the show.
Yeah, I thought that this would be one of the worst matches on the card when we came back around. I talked about that last week, but I don't think at all. I was really enjoyed by this match. I love the throwback to fucking John Cena. I love
Hulk Hogan throwback.
I love the Hulk Hogan throwback from Samoa Joe. These two dudes are pros. They've been in big matches. They weren't, scared by the moment whatsoever, and they delivered. And the opening match of the card, and yeah. Then next up was the Golden Elite.
Yeah, so Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page, and Kota Ibushi versus Jay White, Juice Robinson, and Takeshita.
So I loved the finish of Takeshita getting the pin. I was not a fan of this match whatsoever.
Like at all?
Not at all. No. Kota Ibushi, we were all excited. Now this is now his second match in AEW. I don't need to see any more of this guy. He's 41. He's dealt with injuries. It's like a football player, basketball player, baseball player. When it goes, it just goes. Some guys, he ain't got it no more. Like, I'll remember the Kota Ibushi from 10 years ago. He just, to me, it doesn't have it anymore. I didn't think the chemistry was right between these 6 guys. And like we talked about a lot of times, wrestling's a dance, and sometimes even if everyone involved is talented, it just doesn't jive and it's not there. Yeah, and I just didn't think this was. I'm much more interested in seeing Takeshita and Kenny Omega one-on-one at All Out this weekend than I was seeing them in this match.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah, that'll be a good match,
and we'll get to that again shortly. But
yeah,
there was a lot of good stuff in here. But I mean, now that I'm looking at my phone and looking at the card, like, and the rundown. I mean,
this was the worst match.
Yeah. Okay, you're right. Maybe
it was the worst.
I shouldn't have given you any shit.
Yeah, it was the worst.
So these are all out of order because this was from a site that I got pre-show. So if we jump around, forgive us. Jericho versus Ospreay. Of course, Ospreay was fucking huge because, you're in front of friends and family and such over there. But this is another one of those deep breath moments. Jericho can step up in the big events still when he needs to. He looks like shit sometimes on Wednesdays, right?
Yeah.
But also, how much of this match was Ospreay running around and Jericho reacting to it, and Ospreay carrying the match?
Even if it's that, though, there's not many 52-year-olds that are doing what Jericho's doing.
Yeah.
Hanging in there with what a lot of people think is one of the best, if not the best wrestler in the world.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is I feel like he might hold back a little bit on some of his Wednesday nights where he's like, I still got to go out and put on these pay-per-views every once in a while. And now they're announcing additional fucking pay-per-views left and right.
Oh, yeah. It's that old saying, I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. That's he's the embodiment of that Toby Keith song. I'm not a fan of Listen, Chris Jericho is incredibly famous, right? Successful, one of the greatest pro wrestlers of all time. He can do whatever he wants to do. If you are a fan of this band, I do not mean to offend you whatsoever. But how has he convinced people that Fozzy is good? And
listen, I
singing live is hard, I'm sure.
Singing live is hard.
While you're walking,
don't get out there and do the AO that was done in that stadium by one of the greatest vocalists of all time.
Yeah, that guy that
come on, dog. You got to know better than that. You
know how the TikTok trend is they talk to girls and they're like, "What's your ick?" You know what I mean? It just makes you go, eh. That just kind of made me go, shit. Here we go. And when Will Ospreay said on Wednesday night, is this just a reason for you to say your band played Wembley Stadium? It's yeah, probably. and you know what? I'm not that mad at it, honestly. You can, hey, you're Jericho, man. You can do what you want to do. You've given me and wrestling fans a ton of great moments. If you want to have a little vanity project where you fucking have Fozzy play in front of 85,000 people and you copy the Freddie Mercury thing in the worst way possible, you do you, man.
I saw a tweet by somebody that day. It was 15 years from now, Jericho's in some shitty bar somewhere drinking with somebody. He's like, yeah, my band sold out Wembley Stadium in 2023.
I mean, I guess so. Sure. For a minute. He sold it out for 3 minutes, right? However long Judas takes. But I thought the match was great. This was a real surprise for me. And again, I know that I have proclaimed my love for Will Ospreay on this podcast several times. But as the kids of today like to say, he's him. That's That's the fucking dude. Okay.
Yeah, and apparently he was real high on AEW afterward and was like, hey, appreciate y'all to let me do this. And, there's our most contested TikTok video that we've ever done was people saying he'll never come to AEW. Hey, money talks, baby.
I would give as much money as that man wants.
And he might see Jay White's success and Jay White's rise as a maybe I can do this, right? Because Jay White did it, and Jay White's popping off right now.
Well, I mean, listen, for as great as what New Japan is not putting 81,000 people in Wembley Stadium. It's not happening. So, and if he goes to WWE, which there will be high interest from WWE, I'm sure, in 6 months' time.
Well, there was high interest from them for Jay White, too.
Yeah. And again, but with WWE comes a really, really loaded schedule. And he would not be able to live in the UK and work in WWE. Just will not happen. He will have to move to the States. You could finagle it in a way where he could live in the UK and work AEW. I just think that dude has, you can tell with these dudes instantly. As soon as he fucking showed up on screen in front of all those people, you were like, oh yeah, he looks like he belongs. He looks like all these people are here to see him. And he delivers in the ring. The fucking promo Wednesday night, I thought was absolutely fantastic and made me going from just wanting to see Will Ospreay in this match to being like, I really want to see this match to see what he's going to do. Because, people give him shit for his promo skills. And I'm like, first of all, the fact that he just says bruv just makes him, it makes him unique, right? That's his thing. And with the accent, and all he has to do is be real. Yeah. And so when he talks about that line he gave Jericho, where all your accomplishments are just rocket fuel for my legacy, that's all you got to do, man.
Yeah.
I think he would fit absolutely perfectly in AEW. And if you're a guy like Tony Khan, if you're done dealing with the bullshit of CM Punk, if you make that decision, do you miss a beat if you put Will Ospreay in there?
Jay White and Ospreay could carry Collision, dog.
I mean, there's a lot of guys. We'll talk about another one. He's probably coming up pretty soon. Swerve Strickland.
Yeah, he's next.
I think you could easily slot Swerve Strickland into a CM Punk type of role in screen time, and I think over time he will succeed.
Yeah,
Ricky Stark, same way. So I don't know. There's a lot of dudes who could, if you're done dealing with the drama, where you're like, damn, I love CM Punk and he's a big draw, but everyone in this locker room hates him, and we kind of have to do something,
Yeah.
But I don't know.
So let's get into that. The coffin match next was Sting and Darby Allin versus Swerve Strickland and Christian Cage. It was originally supposed to be Swerve and AR Fox, right?
Yeah, again, that happened right after we recorded, or that happened the next night.
So what happened? What was that? So I know he got written off, or not written off, but he got turned on by Swerve.
Yeah.
Right? The other night. So then Christian Cage is like, okay, he comes out and blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, what happened?
I read reports that I think his grandmother passed away, and then maybe also his dad passed away. But then I heard some reports that AEW was kind of mad at him because they didn't feel like they got enough of a heads up, and there was something where Tony Khan had said there's a lot of real world scenarios and events that are causing me to change things with our show that I didn't want to change. Ray Phoenix, I guess his visa whatever didn't happen, and then probably he was alluding to the AR Fox thing that he had to do. So it really sucks for a guy like Fox. We talked about, he was one of the key points we brought up last week, how excited we were for him.
I mean, I'm not mad that he's basically back to a face again.
Oh, I think that the Mogul Embassy stuff fit him perfectly. Yeah. I think when him as a face, he's just going to get lost. He's going to get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
He should have stayed with Swerve. And I'm not so sure you couldn't have just done a thing where, and they probably will. They'll probably bring it back around where Swerve apologizes and kicks the shit out of Nick Wayne, and they bring him right back in Mogul Embassy or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it was cool to see Christian Cage. Obviously, Wednesday night, he got off another dead father, just ringer. I mean, this dude is ruthless as they come. And this coffin match, listen, Sting, huge pop.
Yeah.
Darby Allin, huge pop.
Fucking coming out with a Metallica, baby. Seek and
bringing
Destroy.
it back. It had the whole crowd going crazy.
He spent some money the other night. TK spent some money on entrance music.
Oh, he's the music man. He got all the songs, whatever you want to come out to. That's the time to do it. I like this match too. I thought this was fun. Thought it was entertaining. I mean, Darby just continues to be fearless in everything that he does.
I love Sting not breaking that table the first time with Swerve and then be like, fuck it, I'm going back up.
Going it again, yeah. And again, you want to talk about a dude like in Swerve, like we were talking about, looks like he belongs in that moment, which is, the only thing that you can say about a star. Darby Allin also looks like he belonged in that moment. And, he's going up, he's in front of 80-something thousand people, and he's standing in the ring with Sting, and he looks like he belongs, and that's all you can really ask for any kind of star.
Yeah, good finish.
Yeah, creative uses of the bat. Swerve Strickland's hair, I think, was still out, so I don't know if we should officially count that as a win. If your hair's still sticking out, does it count?
It's a good question.
I mean, Christian's fingers were out at one point, I think, and they didn't call it closed, and then Swerve's dreads are hanging out, and they called it. So, I don't know. Or maybe it's a screw job. Who knows? Maybe
oversight by the ref.
A little oversight, yeah.
Yeah, good match. Fun. A lot of fun stuff this day. I honestly thought the whole thing would run about 7 hours, but came in about 3.5, right?
And it felt quick. I didn't feel like it was long.
Pretty short for
probably because it was in the afternoon here.
True.
That Saturday or Sunday afternoon wrestling is just the best.
But even if they start on Sunday and they run till 10:30, that's not horrible because sometimes those motherfuckers have run till 11:30 or so.
Yeah, but it's just a Sunday and fuck, you gotta go back to work the next day. It's different when it's like, oh, at noon I'm gonna turn it on.
Yeah.
And at 4:00 it's over.
Yeah. Well, so next up, Stadium Stampede, Orange Cassidy, Best Friends, Eddie Kingston and Penta versus Moxley, Claudio, Wheeler Yuta, Ortiz, and Santana and Ortiz. Fun. These things get hard to cover from a production standpoint. There were a lot of split screens, which are fun. They brought in Sue.
Yeah.
Sue had cookies. Sue got kissed by John Moxley. We got fucking Cassidy crushing up glass on duct tape around his hand and smacking Claudio with it. Like, a lot of shit popping off in this one. But it was fun, and a fun finish. The team that I wanted to won, so I was pretty pleased with that.
Yeah, you mentioned the production elements, and this wasn't the biggest takeaway I had from All In, because obviously the wrestling was fantastic and the company's in great shape, but like the production, and I'm not talking about the set design, I'm literally talking about like the guys in the truck and the camera ops. We got to be better. There were so many cuts to just like nothing. They're cutting away from the action. We're missing stuff constantly. They had a couple of camera shots where the camera's just like on the floor where the guy's like clearly not ready and just probably a missed punch from the truck. But like, it's glaring when you see it because the other side doesn't do it at all. WWE never misses anything like that.
Yeah.
The fucking mics work. Every camera cut is just pristine in quality. Like, they're top notch at everything. And that's one of the biggest things that I noticed was like, oh, the wrestlers look like they belong. The set is immaculate. Fantastic. The fucking production is not, we're not at the stage where we feel comfortable putting 80-something thousand people. Like, we don't know how to cover it well, which is unfortunate. And it's not a big thing. Like, a lot of listeners that are right now are probably like, I didn't notice that much. And like, okay, yeah, but I guess
we work production.
Yeah, we're probably in this world, so we see it probably more than anybody else. And it's just little things like, man, if there's action going on in the ring, I don't need these constant wide shots. Like, I'm already in this environment with you. I can feel it. It's cool when you do it a couple times, but like AEW, and I think they do it mostly because they want to try to prove that like we're not second rate, like we are one of the big boys. But like, if there's action going on in the ring, I don't need to see a sweeping wide shot where I miss something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing in this Stadium Stampede match. Just that, like, first of all, they didn't take a split screen to like halfway through the match. They finally got the split screen working. It's like, I don't know that I wouldn't have done like a quad box. Fucking YouTube TV's about to do a quad box with Sunday Ticket. Just pair these dudes off and literally just put it in every single corner. of the TV and let us watch.
Yeah.
Eddie Kingston and Claudio almost did my suggestion. They got to the 200 section. And then when they were going up, I'm like, are they going to fucking... They should have went to the top. If you're going to go to the 200 section at Wembley, just go to the top.
Just keep on.
And also, like, I know for probably, like, insurance purposes, they had to fight in, like, empty sections. But, like, don't... If you're going to do that, if you have to do that, don't do it then. Like, you got to be in the midst with the fans. But yeah, that was my only thing. The skewers spot with Jon Moxley. I mean, that's just a classic.
Yeah.
Classic deathmatch spot. And yeah, the Taipei deathmatch finish with Cassidy at the end. I knew that's what he was going for too, because the ECW is probably the most famous like Taipei deathmatch where the glue and the fucking broken glass. So when he brought that out, I was like, oh, that is that's a cool moment. Because, I mean, that's been for forever since anybody's seen that. So, but yeah, this was fun. I mean, you have to have one of these on the card just because you have to show people, if this is your first time watching AEW, this is the type of stuff we can do that the other side can't do.
Yeah, good stuff. Next up, the women's championship, Sheeta versus Britt Baker versus Saraya versus Toni Storm. Not the outcome I expected. Saraya gets the win. Hindsight, I should have been like, okay, yeah, duh, they're going to put it on Saraya because they're in front of, her people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you think they'll keep it on her long? What are you thinking here?
I mean, long, I don't know. A couple months probably. I mean, that seems what they do with the title. But, I mean, yeah, it was nice to have, they basically turned her baby face in the match because, I mean, fuck it, she's in her backyard. Like, she's not going to get booed. So they do the breakup with, I guess, the seemingly breakup with Toni Storm. We'll have to see how they play it on Dynamite, if this is a true Outcast breakup or if they kind of make up and get back together. I thought this 4-way match was great, though. I thought all these women had really great chemistry. I thought the spots were great. I love Saraya coming out with her family and the mom getting involved. Everything like that was fantastic. And, Sheeta got... my biggest fear going in this was like Sheeta would kind of get like overshadowed, but she got a really great pop.
Yeah.
And then of course, the elephant in the room is that Miss Mercedes Moné was in Wembley. And so you have to think at some point she's going to come in somewhere and interject herself either full-time in AEW or on a part-time basis on kind of a loan from New Japan. But, I mean, if she comes in AEW, she is the biggest star by far. Not only in the women's division, but in the entire company.
But she didn't have a very long contract with New Japan to begin with.
No, that's what that's what was reported. So, when they showed her, I was like, okay, now that's an interesting wrinkle to just show that she's sitting there watching. Because remember, at the end of All In, they announced they're coming right back to Wembley next year.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be able... The novelty will have worn off at that point. So you really got to come. If you want to get another 80,000 plus in that stadium, you really got to come with some big guns. And Mercedes Moné would surely help that.
Yeah, and there weren't any huge surprises like I kind of expected there to be in terms of...
No, and we kind of talked about that last week. There really was nobody out there to be a surprise, right? I'm thinking your next surprise in AEW will probably be Edge or Adam Copeland. He won't come in as Edge. Adam Copeland will show up in AEW.
Yeah, and there's a lot of indications out there this week that's where he's headed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is not a done deal yet until he shows up on TV. But if I was a betting man, I would put some money on that for sure.
So let's get into the tag team championship, FTR versus the Young Bucks. Rubber match here. And then there's even been things since this has come out and be like, yeah, we're going to get more of them at some point.
Yeah.
But a good match. Solid. What are your thoughts looking at this one?
Yeah, I mean, this was good too. I don't know if this was... It wasn't as good as FTR and Bullet Club Gold from a few weeks ago at Collision. Also, those guys, I mean, it's kind of unfair to compare it because that Bullet Club Gold match, they had an hour. This, they had, 20 minutes to do it. Again, just the creativity of, and I really think it comes down to the Bucks have this kind of creativity, because I think that's probably what I didn't like about the 6-man with Omega, Page, and Ibushi, is that there wasn't a lot of like spots that incorporated everybody that I thought was like unique and creative. I think that's where the Young Bucks really, really shine. Like, yeah, they're great in the ring, but they're really good at thinking about how to incorporate everybody in a way that kind of makes sense. So that's when you get the oh shit moments where everybody's like fucking standing up. Because you got some of that in this FTR match with the false finishes. Young Bucks did FTR solid by putting them over, but FTR also did the Bucks a solid because it took a lot to put the Bucks down, right? I mean, they multiple shatter machines. I mean, they made Matt Jackson look like fucking Superman there for a little bit, which is his inability to be pinned, which delved into a little bit of, I know it's fucking wrestling, so it's not realistic, but a little bit of like, okay, maybe it's a little too much, but it definitely makes you want to see another match between these tag teams. That's all you can really ask for. I thought they were going to do the shaking hands bit, but no, it's wrestling, I guess. You got to keep it going. So, the Young Bucks stuff them, and then, this thing's going to keep going for as long as these two teams are in or in AEW for sure. Yeah.
Well, there's one that I was not on the card that I copied and pasted. I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I was like, well, we haven't gotten to House of Black versus the Acclaimed yet.
Oh, yeah, because that was added
at the last
late.
minute.
Yeah, that was added late.
Hot take here. I don't know that this is the best idea. We've talked multiple times about just let fucking House of Black run this shit for a while and make them fucking unbeatable. What are your thoughts?
This makes me think that they have bigger plans for House of Black, and that probably Malachi is about to ascend to a higher spot at the card, and you want to get the trios belts off of them so you can do something else with it, or else, I don't know why you make this. You do this match. It was a good match, and I loved the Bray Wyatt tribute at the beginning.
Yeah, with the lantern
and the Fireflies in Wembley was cool to see. The problem is House of Black is like we talked about. They're just so fucking cool. People want to root for them because even when Brody King is like doing his little barking thing, the whole crowd is like with them, right? Because it's just they're fucking badass. They have masks. They look cool. They got tattoos. They do cool shit. Like the gear's awesome. The music's awesome. Everything about them is just cool. You naturally want to root for them. So I don't know who they go up against next. But there will definitely be a moment where there'll be some heels or somebody in the ring very soon that the lights go black. They come back up and House of Black and up against a big time spot on the card. No offense to the Acclaimed, they're over as hell and they're great.
Sure, yeah.
But they're not at the level of like Kenny Omega and Hangman and all these guys.
Do you think it's really going to lead up to like Billy Gunn's retirement or?
No, I think they worked us all.
Yeah,
it's a good job. They made us believe. Yeah. His son was out there tweeting shit. So, no, I think Billy, why the fuck would Billy Gunn retire now?
He's still this good worker, man.
I mean, the people love him. He's in a great situation right now with Bowens and Castor. I mean, they can just come out and do their thing every single week. And there's no point for him to retire now.
Yeah. Were there any other matches that got added at the last minute, or should we get into? Because we're already at almost 50 minutes. We still got to do Cole and MJF and then run down the next other cards.
I think that was it.
Here's the thing I want to address. Was I texted you and I was like, okay, so Andrade's not on this show. So far, he's not on All Out. And we were running down the card beforehand. There's only 5 matches announced for All Out at the moment. They did do maybe a tease that Andrade was involved with. Right on Collision, or was it Collision Saturday? Do you think that's Andrade that's watching over?
It's him or Roosh.
Yeah,
and it could just be Roosh.
Didn't really look like Roosh in the silhouette, but why do we not have Andrade on these cards,
bro? I don't know. I mean, you got back-to-back opportunities, and this dude ain't nowhere on this card.
Meanwhile, we got Miro and Hobbs on a very minimal build-up.
We got Statlander and Ruby Soho, very minimal build-up. I mean, a lot of that's what happened. All Out had to be sacrificed for All In to succeed. And now that we're past All In, here's where the problem lies. Especially if the CM Punk suspension, you're going to go through with it. And now fucking, I don't even know what you do for a main event now. That's to even say if MJF and Punk was going to be the main event, I would find it shocking to believe that was not in the cards before what happened this weekend. But yeah, if you're going to continue to do this again next year, I mean, first of all, it's demanding a lot from your talent. You got to think they've gone cross-Atlantic and then fucking back, and they got another pay-per-view.
Then they got a show Wednesday night. Then there's somebody on, Friday. Friday.
Well, you got to do Wednesday. You tape Friday. You're live Saturday. You're live Sunday. That's a fucking lot.
Yeah.
Then asking of your fans and this economy
to spend the money
to spend $100 is a lot. And then didn't they announce another fucking pay-per-view?
Yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier.
October,
we're just out here announcing pay-per-views.
Like, are you going to get on HBO Max soon, bro? Like, what's up?
Yeah,
what's happening? I'm already paying for Max.
50 a clip is not fun.
That is a tough ask from your fan base.
For sure.
But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why our guy Andrade's left off. Even a guy like Ricky Starks, like, I know he's like, quote unquote, serving a suspension, but like, find something for these guys to do.
So we need to get into MJF and Adam Cole because we still got to run down these other cards. So this one I think lived up to the hype. I mean, at first when I saw that was going to be the main event, I was like, dang. But I think it worked. I mean, they've done a really great job the last month or two building it up. Chemistry was good there. Put on a hell of a show.
Let me get your take on this. The main event felt very much like a WWE main event, didn't it? The melodrama.
Yeah, I saw someone else mention that the other day too. It's like, AEW is steered away from it, but they kind of leaned into it with this match.
And I think that was probably the right choice, and they should probably continue down that road, at least with this storyline. I mean, you have to think about it. The one thing we have always said about AEW is like, damn, if they could just do a little bit more of the storytelling, the matches are already top notch. You would really be cooking with gas if you could fucking get the storytelling with it right.
Yeah.
And that's what they did with MJF and Adam Cole, you know? Adam Cole being absolutely willing to do whatever it takes to put MJF down to win the title. MJF seemingly not being able to pull the trigger.
Yeah, there were a couple spots where MJF could have, should have, would have.
The old MJF.
Yeah. But he didn't and couldn't make himself do it because of his quote-unquote friendship.
Yeah. And I mean, these dudes worked their ass off. The fucking spots, the brainbuster on the steps, the table spot. I mean, they put their bodies through hell.
Yeah.
It's stupid to say that they stole the show because they were the main event. But like, that's what a main event's supposed to do. Like that, like really, like that's why you're in that position. Because you are the best. And when any kind of show comes on, you have the best match. That's what made, I mean, that's going back to like Ric Flair. Like, that's why Ric Flair was the fucking main event for 15 years.
Yeah.
Because every time he was on last, he was the best match.
Well, even we debated a lot, and there had been a lot of debate, everywhere about who was going to turn. And then everybody was like, okay, Cole's going to be the first one to turn. And it's going to be this weekend. It'll be during the main event. Well, it didn't happen. Right?
No.
How long do you run this?
For as long as you possibly can at this point. I mean, if you think about AEW, what's the best thing they have going on right now?
This.
So why stop it now?
This is the bloodline of AEW.
Yeah. They're delivering in matches. You can have them run up against the Kingdom. And then at some point, you can have, and Adam Cole has to be the one, by the way, to turn on MJF. Like, we have to, at the end of this, have a fully cemented Maxwell Jacob Friedman as a babyface. He was already the most over guy in Wembley.
Yeah. And you even texted me the other night. You're like, Cole works better as a heel.
Yeah. He works better. The fans desperately want to have MJF be the good guy. So just let us have this one. He's already like, you're starting to see more people with buying scarves, and you're seeing more people like, he's our scumbag. Like, it's there. You don't have to change his gimmick at all, his persona. He can do the same shit. He's just going to be cheered as a good guy for it. And I mean, this is the guy. We've talked about this before. Who are going to be the guys that are going to take AEW and catapult them to a new level of success? Tony Khan thought it was going to be CM Punk. So far, I mean, yeah, maybe that's the case, but not really.
It's been a good show, but the numbers haven't.
The numbers haven't gone up, sure. Yeah. I really do think MJF is a dude who can take this company to another level. Not to say they're going to fucking beat AEW. I think that we can put that horse to bed. I mean, AEW is never going to put WWE out of business. But what they can be is a very successful alternative for wrestling fans that want something different.
And make WWE be petty as fuck by not including the Jacksonville Jaguars on their NFL championship belt website.
Yeah, that was...
they put out a statement, was like, oh, we sold out of those real fast.
I'm sure you did. Yeah, there was one in stock, and you guys bought it back. I'm sure that's what happened.
Yeah, so not to get a sideline there, but that was pointed out. Well, did you point that out, or did a friend of the show, Steven, point that out?
Yeah, he's pointed it out.
Yeah. That was funny as shit. And then like an hour or two later, they put out a statement. It was like, yeah, we sold out of those real fast.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
I bet you did. Shout out, Steven. Yeah, so, yeah, man, great fucking show. Top to bottom, like we kind of talked about, the least fun one was the 6-man match, but everything else was fucking great, man.
Yeah, I mean, this is what AEW does when it comes to the bright lights and the big moments. Everybody works their ass off, and for the most part, all the matches are top notch.
Yeah, and
the main events usually deliver in a way that, like, WWE main events, every now and then. I will say every now and then. A lot of times, it's kind of just like, whatever, it happened.
Yeah. But then again, you can't also have a triple main event night.
Well, yeah, that too. But with AEW, like, when you go back and think about some of the best matches in that company's history, a lot of them were main events. A lot of them were the reason you either tuned into the show or fucking bought the pay-per-view. Like, there's something to be said for that. When you deliver consistently like that, and they delivered.
Let's run down the All Out card. We're almost at the hour mark already. Right now, there's only 5 matches announced. We can get
no main event.
Yeah, no main event yet. So, Luchasaurus versus Darby Allin. Do you think they go Darby?
I think so. I think you just put it on Darby at this point, and I mean, they kind of hot potato this thing anyway.
Darby, let him hold it for a while.
Yeah, just let him have some cool matches and do some cool stuff. Your TNT title is the one that they kind of move over to a bunch of different people, whoever is hot at the moment in that spot, in that tier mid card range.
Yeah. Chris Statlander versus Ruby Soho. I don't really see any reason to take it off Chris at this point. Could be a fun match. I mean, hell, right now, looking at the thing, besides Kenny Omega and Takeshita, this one could be one of the more fun matches of the night. I know we'll get some more announcements on Wednesday. You're not going to run a pay-per-view with 5 matches.
Nah, if this is the 5, I'm not buying it. No offense to any of these people, but
right. Yeah, we don't have the Elite anywhere. Yeah. We got a lot of, well, Kenny's on there. We got a lot of great performers, but like, if there's no Punk, there's no MJF.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people missing. I think Chris retains on that one. Miro versus Powerhouse Hobbs. It'll be a fine match. Not sure that we need this on a pay-per-view.
No, this could main event a Dynamite or a Collision.
Yeah.
It's just there's no juice behind this whatsoever.
Now, up next, Kenny Omega versus Takeshita should be a banger.
Oh, this thing's gonna slap. This shit's gonna be good. Yeah, they should have just done this at Wembley. These two guys in a singles match. This is where it's at. I mean, Omega is still just at the top of his game. Takeshita is just a physical freak, and a future star of that company. I mean, again, like, if in 6 months' time, if at next year's Wembley Stadium, let's put it like this. If at next year's Wembley Stadium, AEW has a Takeshita who's moved up to the top of the card, a Will Ospreay who they've brought in, who is automatically at the top of the card, an MJF, a Kenny Omega, Bryan Danielson. Remember, he was fucking hurt. If he comes back and he's on Wembley, and you get all these guys like, yeah, Mercedes Moné, yeah, you can probably put 80,000 back in Wembley. I mean, that's the roster to do it. So, yeah, Takeshita is a guy who, I'm not so sure that I wouldn't have Takeshita beat Kenny here.
Give him a little shine.
Yeah, let him beat him again. Then you can run an
There's
angle.
nothing at stake, right? I mean, it's
but just
no
for pride,
Yeah.
Except, Don Callis wants to see Kenny Omega, I guess, his head on a stake, which Don Callis wants to see a lot of guys' heads on stakes. He's got a lot of enemies right now.
Right.
So, it wouldn't surprise me if we see a damn Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho team up at some point down the line.
I mean, this will be fun.
Yeah, but this should be a really good match.
And then it says the winner of Orange Cassidy versus Penta El Zero Miedo to face John Moxley for the AEW International Championship.
Yeah, first of all, why the fuck is it not John Moxley versus Penta versus Cassidy? Why the hell's the champion have to defend the belt twice?
It's all really confusing. I when I saw the thing in the card and I copied and pasted, I was like, time out. What are we doing here?
Yeah, well, it's like when they did the women's championship bracket and they gave Toni Storm a bye. It's like, why? Why does Sheeta have to win it in the first round? She's the champ.
Goddamn belt.
Yeah, it's just, well, that was kind of stupid, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll probably be Cassidy versus Moxley. And
yeah,
I don't know.
That'd be fun.
Maybe you have Moxley take it off of him. Moxley's still a huge star, so I mean, fucking any kind of law. And plus, you can always play up the angle with Cassidy, like, hey, the dude has been nonstop for damn near a year now.
Yeah, I mean, even
he's
the last
broken to shit
month or two, it's been like, I'm tired.
Yeah,
and like they're interviewing him, he's just like, I'm tired.
Yeah, and now like you got to think about the hand injury and kayfabe, all that stuff. So yeah, that should be fun too. Yeah,
so we got the WWE pay.
Well, then, who's MJF face?
Yeah, I mean, you got to.
I'm also not buying this card if they do something where it's like MJF and Adam Cole versus the Kingdom. I'm nah.
That's not worth.
I'm not. I don't.
That's not worth
that.
$50.
No, give me MJF defending the title against
Punk.
Yeah, I mean that's the match I want to see.
Yeah,
that's the match I want to see.
Hey, we said this earlier, but it don't take that long to fucking investigate this shit.
No,
there's cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
WWE Payback preview. Seth Rollins. There's some good shit on here. Seth versus Shinsuke Nakamura. That'll be a good one. Do you think they put it on Nakamura?
They do, I think, if this back injury of Seth is legit. If it's legit and he needs some time off, then yeah, it makes all the sense in the world to give it to Shinsuke for a little bit. And then you immediately, once Rollins is healed back up, he can come back. I just don't know how much of the back injury is kayfabe and how much of it's not. Because it would make plenty of sense, right? I mean, nobody has gone harder than Seth Rollins has in that company lately. Yeah. I mean, he's at every house show. I mean, shit, he was here in Huntsville, the damn house show main event in a street
Sunday
fight,
night,
you know? So, yeah, if it's legit and he needs some time, a couple months off, you've already made Shinsuke a believable threat to him. So,
and those have been fun. His promos
have been fun. Yeah. So yeah, pull the trigger on it and come out of Payback with Shinsuke as a champ. And let old Rollins heal up, and then you come back. Because here's the thing: it's what they always say. How can we miss you if you never go away?
Yeah.
Rollins has been on the top of the card. Well, he hasn't been champion, but he's been a main event level star in that company for a long time. Yeah. So if he goes away for 4 months and comes back, I mean that'd be perfect. So
then we got Trish Stratus versus Becky Lynch in a steel cage. This has got to be the last of this.
This has drawn out way too long, and they've to me they've screwed up any interest I had in this storyline.
Even Trish, like in an interview that I saw yesterday, was like, "Yeah, this."
Yeah, I think she said I've been sipping lemonade for a long time with this.
Yeah,
I mean this is now down 6-7 months.
It's been a minute.
It's been 7 months worth of time for a month and a half worth of story.
Yeah,
which has been the problem.
Yeah. Becky had a nice tribute to Bray when it went off air. Did you
Yeah.
see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, the WWE shared it a lot. Good stuff there. And she was very emotional at the end of the night, right before they went off air. She was holding her Bray armband up in the air.
Yeah.
Good stuff there. Rhea Ripley versus Rodriguez. Rhea retains.
Although I do like Rodriguez. I like how she's coming on strong.
Yeah.
They have presented her as a viable threat. She still needs something else to her character. She can't just be like, I'm big and I'm badass.
Yeah.
It really doesn't work.
Yeah.
Particularly because she doesn't have the kind of look that like Rhea Ripley has a look, right?
Yeah.
The black hair, the black lipstick. Nobody looks like her. Raquel kind of just looks like everybody else except she's, 5 inches taller than all the women. But if she was the same size, like there wouldn't really be anything about her. So, but she's still green-ish, newish. So she'll come along. But I think these two women, you talk about a show stealer potentially. I think it's this one.
Could be this one.
I think it's that one.
So next up is Rey Mysterio versus Austin Theory.
Should be LA Knight, but whatever.
Yeah, let's segue these two because after that we've got The Miz versus LA Knight. So LA Knight will win. Do you think they put it back on Theory and then let LA Knight take it off him? They're not going to hot potato it that quick though, right?
I mean, fuck it, I would. If it was me, I would do it.
And be like, let this old dude beat up the young dude.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's just, listen, they clearly have a lot of trust in LA Knight because in the tribute show, LA Knight's the one that gets to come out and do the fucking Bray Wyatt, all the stuff, right?
Yeah. It's good stuff too, man.
I thought that was a great promo Friday. I love that he used some of Bray's lines and, he talked about the fact that he was one of his, I think he was the last match.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody talked about, but like in a house show. One of the Bray's last match was at a house show against him.
Yeah.
So yeah, the dude needs a belt, man. Give him, it's sitting there.
Yeah.
Give him one. He's fucking moving merch. I read some kind of crazy stat like a couple months ago, like he was number 3 in the company in merchandise sales, but he only had like 15 things for sale. And like the first dude had like 100 and something, which is just like wild to think about. Like you have that little stuff to sell and you're selling all of it.
They're missing the opportunity of selling the fucking sunglasses because The Miz came out and did his LA Knight impression,
which I also thought was great.
Yeah, The Miz fucking knocked it out of the park with that.
Yeah.
But somebody else was like, yeah, why aren't they selling these sunglasses?
They will. I mean, they will eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably Theory would, if they're going to put it on LA Knight, then have Theory win. They're probably not going to do that yet. So Rey Mysterio and LA Knight would be my picks here at Payback.
Yeah.
But both of those should be fun-ish matches.
So let's take half a second and talk about, came out the other night in an interview that LA Knight was fairly close to signing with AEW a couple years ago. What did you think about that? And like, do you think that would work? I don't know if it would work in AEW.
I don't think that's what I was kind of thinking. I don't think it would because MJF does something a little bit similar. If you believe in like serendipity, like everybody, you're right where you're supposed to be. Right. And I think,
Right
even
place,
though
right time.
Even though, yeah, he's 40, like this was the kind of stuff that WWE was missing. They needed a kind of loudmouth, brash character like LA Knight that's sort of a throwback. Yeah, I don't know if he's as popular in AEW.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if the fan base of AEW would have responded to him in the same type of way. Because like we talk about all the time, AEW's fan base is a lot more about the in-ring work, the wrestling. Like MJF is special because he's the best of both worlds.
Yeah,
he's
he can
great
do
on the
both.
mic, and fuck it if the dude's not a 10 out of 10 in the ring as well. LA Knight is kind of like some dudes are just suited better for WWE, and I think that's the case of him.
He's more of a sports entertainer than a wrestler.
Yeah, I might have compared him to this guy. He reminds me a lot of Diamond Dallas Page. If you were a fan of WCW, like there was a moment in time in the mid 90s where like DDP just caught fire and just became, yeah, he was old, but the crowd were just like, nope, that's our guy. Like, we love him. And the Diamond Cutter started getting over, and then fucking next thing you know, DDP goes from being a nothing with the U.S. title to being one of the most over baby faces in the company behind like Sting. And it happened organically and pretty damn fast. And that's something similar to what LA Knight is experiencing here in WWE.
Yeah.
You just got to think about where does he go? What title does he get? And like we've talked about, the U.S. title is just dangling out there. But I don't know. Could they have bigger plans for him?
It's dangling, man. And you got to think that like once Gunther gets through the Honky Tonk Man's record of having the Intercontinental title or whatever, it's the internet. It's International Intercontinental, one of the two.
It's Intercontinental WWE. Yeah.
So, I mean, hell, maybe do we talk about putting them in a thing, and then because then you can elevate Gunther after that, because Gunther is going to be in the top matches sooner rather than later.
Yeah. So maybe it's that. Maybe they want to go from Gunther to LA Knight for the Intercontinental title. I don't know.
Because he's only, at this point, he's a week or less.
I think he's about at a week.
Yeah.
Right at a week. Yeah.
So last match of the night for the tag team championships, Sammy and KO versus Judgment Day, which would be Damian Priest and Finn Balor. Good stuff will be, I mean, this will probably be the match of the night, right?
It'll be up there. Be up there for sure. Again, I mean, the biggest question going into this is like, what happens with Judgment Day? Like we have no mystery with Sammy and Kevin. Like they're going to win this match. They're not going to take the titles off them. So yeah, it's going to be like, do they pull the trigger on the Judgment Day breakup? Probably not. Probably not this pay-per-view, but like
it's coming.
It's soon. And also like we talked about with like Crown Jewel a couple months ago, these little lesser pay-per-views, you kind of do want at least one surprise to happen to motivate people to watch it, or else people are just going to be like,
football's on Saturday.
Football's on. This is not Survivor Series. It's not Royal Rumble. It's not SummerSlam. Nothing happens on these shows. Fuck it. I'll just watch it on Twitter.
That was another one of the things somebody was talking about. CM Punk was like, my man's got it figured out. Come back, work for 2 months, and then be like, it's fixing to be down season. I'm going to go out here and start some shit and be off TV for a little while there's not much going on because everybody's watching football on Saturday night.
Yeah.
Saturday's going to be loaded. You got Collision Saturday night. Don't know what's going to happen there yet. I mean, there'll be something happening leading up to the pay-per-view, and then you got...
Well, yeah, you got to think about those Collision ratings.
Yeah.
What's about to happen, because it's about to get bare.
Yeah.
That's a bad slot to be in at that time.
Because Bama plays at Saturday night at 6 o'clock, 6:30. Now, granted, it's not much of a game, but Bama plays. Bama fans are going to Bama, right? So
yeah, and even those college games get 4 or 5 million people.
Yeah.
Even just across the nation,
Yeah.
not even here in our region.
And then you got Payback Saturday night. So I'll have a game on, probably a TV, have Payback on iPad or vice versa.
Which makes you think, like, if they're going to announce any kind of matches for All Out, they really can only do it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Because people will not be watching on Saturday.
No. The numbers will be dire on Saturday.
Yeah, and I don't know.
And numbers will be worse when Alabama plays somebody besides MTSU.
Well, not even Alabama, but like, because you got to think these ratings are nationwide. Like,
True.
NBC's made a big push to get college football on the network. ESPN, we know, is going to have college football. And NBC's made a huge, I mean, fucking NBC got Big Ten. Like, that's not nothing to sneeze at. They're going to program that slot in prime time. And then again, yeah, college football is so fractured. There's so much to watch on Saturday nights.
And I don't know how that works now. I'll probably watch Collision on Sunday morning when I get up.
Well, spoiler alert, that's kind of how I watch it. I only really watch things later through DVR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, fun week. This has been a jam-packed week. We try to get our show at about an hour. We're at 114.
I mean, this was an insane week.
Yeah.
From when we recorded.
And it'll be nuts again this coming week.
The death of two just absolutely beloved figures in wrestling.
Yeah.
Then the biggest wrestling show of all time. Then the fucking CM Punk and Jack Perry and Tony Khan fiasco. And then there's WWE stuff. And so it never stops with wrestling. What a time to be a wrestling fan.
It's not a bad time at all.
I mean, there's just so much of it.
Yeah.
All of it is happening.
Just fucking enjoy wrestling.
Yeah. And if somebody steps to you and, you know, you got to goozle a motherfucker, I guess goozle them. Shit. I mean, damn. If you got to do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I ain't necessarily mad at it, so.
Yeah.
Somebody got to get these young kids in shape. These young kids just fucking being rough ones out here.
Come on, dog. Don't try to put somebody through some real glass. And when you got everybody, they set Punk up to be in a situation.
So can we put our tinfoil hats in right here at the end of the show?
I mean, let's do it.
We know AEW, was it unrestricted, all access? What the fuck is a reality
All
show?
access.
Season 2 has to be coming around the corner somewhere, right?
It's been a couple months since it's been off.
I mean, listen, they fooled us last time by fucking thinking we were going to get some shit from Brawl Out and we couldn't get it. Could CM Punk just be like, well, fuck it. If I can't get Kenny Omega in a ring, I'm just going to kind of manufacture some backstage shit because I know I can get Jack Perry in a ring. He'll do the job. Have
you seen the video that circulated this in the last day or two of from back, I guess, when Punk first came in? He's in the ring with Jungle Boy.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah,
cutting up. And he says, I'm going to whip your ass one of these days or something like that.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Leave it with a little tinfoil Patrick here. Just be like, I don't fuck you.
I mean, I texted you and Steven yesterday. I was like, part of me thinks it feels like a work to get Jack Perry some heat.
The only reason to me it doesn't feel like work is because, like, and I said this in the text, at some point the fucking reality has to bleed over onto the TV screen.
Right.
And if they don't do that, then I think it's all just legitimate, just kind of bullshit from just an immature company that can't get their shit together. But like, I don't know. If fucking Jack Perry and CM Punk show up Wednesday, you're not going to tell me you ain't going to watch?
Yeah.
And listen, if you're Jack Perry and you're like, man, I don't like this shit I'm doing with the FTW championship, whatever. Like, I should be in a bigger spot on the card. Maybe I'll fucking go after the top guy. You know, maybe I'll start some shit.
The quote unquote real world champion.
I mean, not a bad spot. He goes from being on the pre-show to Hook to now he's like the biggest thing that's talked about after this show.
Yeah.
Not a bad spot.
You're supposed to be a pillar and MJF is headlining and Sting's out there with fucking Darby putting on a show.
And I'm going to do my own thing.
And Darby's probably finna be the TNT champion.
Yeah. And so when CM Punk says, do we got a problem? You go, yeah, actually, as a matter of fucking fact, we do. Yes, we do. And then there you go. Throw hands.
Yeah. Well, y'all follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Alabama Slam Pod. You can find us on Facebook. Just search Alabama Slam Podcast. And we have a network of other podcasters at thealabamatake.com. You can follow The Alabama Take on all social media. Just search at The Alabama Take. And we got a bunch of podcasts and writers. We'd really appreciate it. You give everybody a chance. We won't go into too much detail because we're running super long this week. But we appreciate y'all listening, and we will talk to y'all next Wednesday.
Later, guys.